Madam Chair. Chief Tidwell, let me first start by saying I share your support for a solution to the wildfire funding challenge. I've spent a lot of time traveling across Montana, hearing from conservation groups, sportsman groups, the timber industry. I think we've got great broad spectrum agreement that something has to change in the way wildfires are funded or wildfire fighting is funded. And I'm hoping that we resolve it this year, and I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. Your office provided me information indicating that over 7 million federal acres in Montana are at high or very high risk of wildfire, most of which are managed by the Forest Service. That's approximately 1 in 4 federally controlled acres in Montana. I was further told that nearly 2 million of these acres are most in need of treatment because they are near populated communities or the watersheds. Unfortunately, I was informed that the Forest Service did hazardous fuels treatment on only about 52,000 of those acres in the last fiscal year out of 2 million that are needed. I've got no doubt that the work that was done there was important, but the current pace of treatment is simply not acceptable. Certainly our communities, our watersheds, our wildlife habitat, our access to recreation, all of these critical Montana treasures are at real risk to wildfire. More than 10 years ago, Congress provided enhanced authorities to the Forest Service to reduce hazardous fuels through the Healthy Forest Restoration Act. You mentioned that. But as noted, these authorities are clearly not adequate, and the HFRA clearly has shortfalls. What, in your view, are the barriers to getting more done there?
Well, as I shared earlier, the Healthy Forest Restoration Act was a very, it continues to be a good authority for us, but it is limited to certain areas based on the criteria that's required, and that is having community wildfire protection plans. You need to have a hazardous fuel component, and we really need to be looking at the entire landscapes, the full restoration work, not only the hazardous fuels work next to the community, but what we need to do in the entire watershed. And as was pointed out from some of the witnesses, that is a much better approach. And so we look at Healthy Forest Restoration Act, and now with the new Farm Bill authorities that allow us to be able to use the similar type of NEPA approach, but also address where we have insect and disease. By putting those together, it's going to allow us to take a more of a total landscape approach, to be able to look at everything that needs to be done on that landscape, and to be able to look at not thousands of acres. We just have to be looking at tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of acres at a time, and to be able to have the NEPA in place so for the next 10 years, we can be able to get in there and do the work that needs to be done. Those are the things that are really going to make the difference.
Well, I truly appreciate your commitment to finding solutions that will improve forest health and also increase responsible timber harvest in Montana, and we really look forward to further discussions with you to achieve that goal. I want to ask Dr. Hood a question. And Dr. Hood, first of all, welcome to our nation's capital. It's good to have another Montanan in the room. And it's great to have the perspective of someone who intimately knows the challenges facing our national forests in Montana. Your testimony focused largely on the role of fire and the role of fire management on increasing resistance to the bark beetle. I remember seeing this when I was a kid back in the 70s, and now we're seeing it again. My children are seeing it now in Montana as well. Now I know your research was primarily focused in the Rocky Mountain region, but as you know, Montana has millions of acres that are damaged by beetle kill. I'm pleased that Congress recently gave the Forest Service new authorities to tackle this huge challenge in Montana, but based on your research, how could increased management, including thinning and prudently removing dead timber, be used to improve the health of forests in Montana and reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire?
So, in order to increase the health of our forest, thinning is definitely should be a valid or a good management tool. My research also showed that having prescribed fires and low severity naturally occurring wildfires stimulates tree defenses. So having that combination of thinning and prescribed burning, and then areas that we have treated to allow naturally consider allowing ignitions to burn, allow fires to burn, further perpetuates a healthy forest that could be resistant to bark beetles. I think we're always going to have some level of bark beetles. They're native insects to our forest, but doing treatments and promoting a patchy landscape can certainly help reduce the severity of those outbreaks.
Thanks, Doctor.